Japan entered the 20th century in a period of transition. A country which had isolated itself from the outside world was being reborn as a leading world power. It was opening to the world and hastened to catch up with its backlog in all the most important spheres of industry, such as shipbuilding, aviation, and engineering. Foreign specialists were invited to train Japanese engineers, and the Japanese themselves started traveling and studying technical novelties. Over several decades, Japan managed to catch up with its backlog in the technical aspect almost from scratch, and to realize itself as a power which should dominate implicitly in the region. As it started to gain power, Japan turned its attention to its neighbors, aiming at expanding its areas of influence and its territories. Thus, in 1879, the Ryukyu state located on Okinawa Island was annexed, and in 1894, Japan fought a war with China, as a result of which Japan gained the island of Taiwan. Another war over redivision of areas of influence was fought between Japan and Russia in 1904 and 1905, the main result of which was the final annexation of Korea to Japan in 1910. All those wars won at the turn of the century built up the glory of the Japanese army and navy, as well as strengthening the faith of the Japanese in their unconquerable armed forces and their confidence that Japan should become the largest state in Asia. In 1922, Japan was the first country in the world to launch a ship whose class was strictly determined as aircraft carrier. Shortly after that, aircraft carriers initially built as battleships went into service. All these facts demonstrate the importance of specifically naval aircraft in Japan. As both the Army and Navy possessed their own aircraft in Japan, both of them developed its aircraft quite separately. In fact, these two military forces were completely independent of each other and sometimes had utterly different views on conducting military operations and the location of those actions as well. In 1937, a new war with China began when Japan established control over the northern and central parts of the territory. In response to the war in China and the movement of troops into French Indochina, the USA placed an embargo on oil and metal supply to Japan. These materials were vital for the conduct of military operations, so Japan had to seek out another source. It was quickly found in European colonies in Southeast Asia, which automatically made them the object of military invasion. After the introduction of the embargo, the Japanese headquarters became more and more conscious that conflict with the USA and England was inevitable if the country continued its expansion southwards. And consequently, plans for a preemptive strike began to emerge. One of the possible plans even provided for striking an aircraft carrier blow on the Pearl Harbor naval base located on the Oahu island of Hawaii. However, these plans would only be implemented if peace talks failed and Japan did not succeed in convincing America in the rightness of her position. On April 10, 1941, Japan established the first aircraft carrier fleet comprising 3 divisions of 2 aircraft carriers each. It was the first large formation of aircraft carriers in the world. And on November 16, 1941, 1 century after American military forces put an end to the isolation of Japan, the Japanese First Air Fleet, including 6 aircraft carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, Shokaku, Zuikaku, left their ports and headed to Hawaii.